Baptist, North Little Rock.
Yep.
Randy, you guys are North Assembly, what y'all's title up there?
First Assembly, North Little Rock.
Yes, First Assembly. Okay, and I told them this thing records to be played on Saturday, so if you hear me say something about Saturday, I'm not crazy, okay? The music will start. I'll do a little bit of an intro, and we're going to go for about 25 minutes. At the bottom of the hour, there'll be a break, and I got Robert Lewis, who's going to come on the second half, talk about Better Man. And you guys that want to hang on for that, feel free to hang on, but if you need to go, when you hear the break at the bottom, and there'll be a silence because he'll be loading up commercials, that's your time you can drop off, hopefully. Maybe let me make sure Robert has called in. If we need to go past the bottom of the hour in case he hasn't called in, we can carry a little further. Everybody drop off whenever you got to drop off. Everybody good?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, Maestro, hit it. And we'll record Facebook, right? All right, here we go. You might recognize the music when it starts to play.
It's time for the Kim Hammer Show.
We're going to do a do-over. Hey, have you got the If I Had Me a Hammer? Yeah, okay. We are a forgiving group, man.
It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me here on the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM The Answer, and I appreciate you joining. If you want to follow, you can go up to the website, www.thekimhammershow.com, or you can follow on Facebook or any of the social platforms where podcasts are found, and you can get a recording of the show that you can share with your friends, because I think you are going to enjoy this show today. The show is going to be subject matter of better dads in the first half, and then we're going to talk about better man in the second half. For the first half, dealing with better dad, I have Lynn Rayburn, who's the pastor of Faith Baptist Church over in North Little Rock. I've got Randy Jumper, who is on staff and also one of the key architects of the material that is used for Better Dad from First Assembly of God in North Little Rock. And they got Phil Harris with DWS, the TANF division, on the line as well. And when we talk about Better Dad, the first thing I want to do is, Phil, I want to go to you and just maybe give the groundwork for how this initiative got started from the state, what it was intended to do, and what are some of the goals that we hope to achieve. And let me just start off with you, and then Randy, I'm going to come to you because you wrote the material, and then we're going to go to Lynn because there's a Better Dad conference that's coming up on August 26th and 27th. This will get put up on my website, and you can find the information there. But Phil, let's start off with you as far as how did this idea get born, and how did it get started as far as the Better Dad concept?
Okay, thank you, Senator Hammer, for having me on today. I appreciate the opportunity. I want to go back to back a little bit in history of TANF. Actually, TANF has been involved in fatherhood for some time, but I want to tell you when it actually was formalized in 2005. Our legislature, then and governor at that time was Governor Huckabee, used Act 1705 of 2005 to create the Community Investment Initiative that was under TANF, and the legislation gave the Division of Workforce Services and the TANF program the authorization to use federal TANF funds to contract with private and community-based and faith-based organizations. As a result of that, we began, one of the stipulations was to use the money, use the funding to improve the financial and emotional connections of non-custodial and custodial fathers to their children through fatherhood programs. That's when we actually formalized fatherhood in the state of Arkansas, and we began making funding available to community and faith-based organizations. Then along came Secretary Dale Brissett, who at the time was the director for the Division of Workforce Services, and he got really excited about fatherhood, talked to Governor Hutchinson about it, and decided to make a really sizable investment in fatherhood for the state of Arkansas. And we began a relationship with First Assembly of God in North Little Rock under Pastor Rod Lloyd, and Pastor Randy Jumper took the lead as the lead coordinator, the lead director for Arkansas Better Dads was created in 2018. And so there we go. Better Dads became a reality. Fatherhood in Arkansas was actually taken to a whole nother level. And Pastor Randy, under his leadership, and Pastor Lloyd, under his leadership, began developing a curriculum called Championship Dads, which I'll let Pastor Randy talk about. But that's when Better Dads was created, and they hit the ground running and began partnerships and initiatives throughout the state and training men, both custodial and non-custodial, to be the best that they could possibly be. And we've been excited, and it's come a long way. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit in 20, and somewhere in there, First Assembly decided to step back away from fatherhood. Not all the way away from it, but enough that we brought it in-house, and we kept it alive to the extent that we can. But we appreciate Pastor Randy's continued advisory help, and your help, and the help of many others. And the goal here is that we anticipate reviving Better Dads to another statewide level, and using the Championship Dads curriculum and working with faith-based groups all across Arkansas. So that's kind of a brief history, Senator Hammer, of where we've come, of how far we've come, with the goal now of making further investment to help men step up and be the best fathers that they can be.
All right, let me ask you to clarify something, because the listening audience may not know what TANF is. That's an acronym. Real quickly, hit on what TANF is and how it is that those funds come down to the state for various things.
Okay, a good question. I'm sorry I didn't clear that up. TANF stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. It is the block grant that Arkansas receives from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. All 50 states receive the funding for the TANF program. Arkansas receives its allotment of that block grant, and thanks to our legislature and great leadership from our governors, that we have decided that we would invest in not only fatherhood, but healthy marriages, parenting, improving outcomes for youth, and things of that nature. So we use those federal funds, and one of the key uses of those funds is what we're talking about today, fatherhood.
All right, and what about, I know the state has a website, at least I think you still do. What's the website for Better Dads? Or can you get it? Okay.
I can give it to you, and I'm sure Pastor Randy will give it to you as well. But it is arbetterdads.com, and we encourage guys as well as the ladies as well to go out and check out the website. And take the challenge, and I'll let Pastor Randy talk about that, but we're challenging men to step up, and we're very excited about it, and looking forward to working with Pastor Rayburn, who's here today, as well as many other leaders spiritual leaders throughout the state of Arkansas. So glad to be a part of it.
Okay, Randy, I'm going to come to you in just a second, but I want to give a couple websites for those that are listening. If you want to go up there and look at them while you're listening, or if you're on Facebook, you can, pull them up also. And then we'll get this information up on the KimHammerShow.com website. But it's AR Better Dads. Is it dads plural or just dad? I'm sorry, in the website.
It's plural. It'll be plural. It'll be plural.
Okay.
Better dads.
arbetterdads.com. And let me go ahead and give you, if you want to be looking it up, the website also for Faith in North Little Rock, because they're going to be offering the seminar on August 26th and 27th. It's www.faithnlr, like North Little Rock, faithnlr.org/Better Dads. And so you go to www.faithnlr.org/Better Dads, and they've got the information about the conference. Randy, let me come to you now and talk about the development of the materials and some of the hot spots on the materials that you cover, and just give a little history about that and your involvement. And when you get done, I'm going to come to Lynn and let him talk about the conference.
Sure. What an honor and privilege to be on all of you. I know most of the leaders on this phone call met them in different capacities. When the state approached us and several other groups about fatherhood, what was intriguing to me, and maybe the thing that stands out, is that fatherhood becomes a nexus connecting point across all kinds of different parameters, meaning individuals and groups that may not have seen eye to eye or even have disagreements on a lot of different things are able to come together and agree on the importance of fatherhood, regardless of religious background, regardless of even political persuasion. But the data just doesn't lie. Statistically speaking, children in families that have an active, present father perform and outperform the general population, but definitely perform better statistically when it comes to crime rates, economic advancement, mental health, even physical well-being. Or the presence of an active, engaged father is a determinant to creating positive, which means you can't argue the data. In fact, the data comes to us, the research from the last 30, 40 years often comes from cycles and circles that would be surprising to people. There's almost universal agreement from academic as well as federal and state levels in importance, which is why TANF was willing to do this. They had spent so much time and energy on their rehabilitation of negative situations economically specifically, that fatherhood is considered preventative maintenance. It is helping people never end up on welfare, helping people never become economically disadvantaged. So how can we invest on the front end rather than having to clean up on the back end? And so that's what kind of became the nexus point of creating Arkansas Better Dads. First Assembly really viewed itself less as the agency doing this work, but more as a collaborative effort. And over that couple years together, it was super exciting because over the course of that time, every county in Arkansas received Arkansas Better Dads training or awareness. There were people in every county who received fatherhood materials. Over 50 some odd organizations and groups, from public schools to Baptist churches to Assemblies of God churches to groups who work with orphan care to parenting, to even some court systems who employ Better Dads materials. And First Assembly we just got to be the privilege of being the bridge builder between the state and making those funds and resources available. When we sat down and dreamed about Better Dads, we decided one of the things that was most important is reversing the narrative on fatherhood in America. Because while we all agree it's positive, the positive impacts of fatherhood, you don't have to live under a rock. You know, fathers are bashed and busted in media. They are trashed in sitcoms and entertainment. The bumbling, stumbling father is sort of the laughing stock. We've come a long way from Andy Griffith to the fatherhood presentations that are out there today. And the absent dad is the narrative. But the truth is, in our studies and research across Arkansas, probably people listening on the radio right now, there are more good dads than there are bad dads. There are more dads out there who are looking and hoping to become better. There are positive men who are trying to do a positive thing. The issue is they just don't know what to do. It's not because they're jerks. It's not because they want to abandon their kids. It's not because of any other reason. They just don't have the access. They don't have the assets. They don't have the resources. We're not asking men to become number 10 dads, although that's awesome. We're just saying at the end of Championship Dads, at the end of every day, we just want you to be a better dad. We want you to be better than you were yesterday. We want you better at parenting, better at fathering, better at providing for your families, better at engaging with your kids and your spouse, your stepkids, even your own parents, just one day, every day better. And so that's how we built the curriculum. That's how we built the Better Dad Challenge, was just, can you commit not to become a home run? If you're a 4 on the scale of 10 as a dad, and tomorrow you're a 5, you improved, and you should celebrate the improvement. Now, we're going to get you to 7 or 8. We're going to get you to 9 or 10. But we're going to celebrate small steps and incremental growth. And so that's kind of where it all came from. And the Championship Dads curriculum was kind of an outburst of that. Again, it's an incredible nexus of where you had both a state that was willing to invest in the creation of curriculum, as well as organization like Arkansas Better Dads, willing to coordinate and integrate all kinds of different voices to creative championship dads that would work both in a secular setting, and then even as we're going to have at the end of this month or next month, you're going to have a faith-based version of it, carefully following all the laws, all the guidelines, everything that's needed to be done, able to invest and create a curriculum that starts first with who a man is an individual, what is their sense of purpose, what is their goal. And this is more than just talking about coaching tips or parenting 101. This is more than just advocating certain opinions. This is really a journey that is adaptable to any context or setting. Championship Dads is executed in prisons down in South Arkansas. It's been done at churches. It's been done for PTA groups and in a local school district. So it's really an open-ended, open-source curriculum that gives basic guiding, research-based, evidence-based teaching to put in the hands of capable leaders and men in any community willing to take that and adapt into their context. And at the end of the day, a couple weeks from now, when we're over at Faith Baptist, the goal will be at the end of that session that there'll be some men who think they are better dads themselves, and they're better dads from where they were the day before. That's the goal of Arkansas Better Dads.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to give Lynn a chance to talk about the conference that's going to be coming up, and then for the balance of our time we got left in this half hour, we're just going to talk about the state of manhood in general, but also talk about the state of fatherhood. And I want to go back to some of what you said, Randy, regarding the statistics. The one thing I do want to make, unequivocally clear is that this material can be used in any setting, adapted to any environment, regardless of wherever it occurs. It could occur in a church, it could occur in a community center, it could occur, in a school, a PTA meeting, whatever the case may be. And there are certain boundaries, bumper guards, if you would, that it has to function in. For the purpose of getting things restarted after COVID and after the break, Faith in North Little Rock has stepped up, and they're going to kind of be the groundbreaking, if you would, for the opportunity to come out after COVID. So with that being said, let me turn it over to you, Randy, and talk about the conference that you got coming up and anything that you want to share. And also remember that if you want to participate, he's probably going to get to this, but go up to the website they've got, which is www.faithnorthlittlerock, NLR, not spelled out, faithnlr.org/Better Dads. All right? Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Senator. It's a blessing to be able to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity of being a part of this. It's a great method of outreach for us and a way to minister to our community. I really like what Randy said about the need of dads and the importance of having a father in the home, the statistics that bear that out. Strong families make for strong communities, strong churches, a stronger nation. And the father is the key to that. And so for us to have the opportunity to participate with betterdads.com, arbetterdads.com, and to use the material that Randy wrote is a great opportunity. Now, as you've said a couple of times, we're going to start that conference on Friday evening of August the 26th. We will start at 6 p.m. with a free catfish dinner, and then there will be 2 sessions of training after that dinner on Friday evening. Our speaker, by the way, for both Friday evening and Saturday morning will be Mark Clements, who is the editor-in-chief of Bogard Press in Texarkana. He is a former missionary, a former pastor, and now the editor of that Christian Material Press. On Saturday morning, we'll start with a free breakfast at 9 a.m. and then have 2 sessions led by Mark Clements, and we'll break then. We'll be finished by lunch. There is no charge for any of this, and TANF is providing the materials that, the written materials that Randy put together for us, and we will be meeting, having those sessions for the special training. Now, the website that's been mentioned, faithnlr.org /Better Dads, is actually the registration for the conference. And there will be, if you just go to faithnlr.org, there will be a link on our page, the opening page, that you can click and get the information and register. We need for people to register because we are catering the meals, and we need some idea of who is coming. Now, I want to make it clear, I like the flexibility of the material, but let me tell you who I have in mind as a pastor that would come to this. I want to see young men who are not yet fathers because they need the training. Randy said this is preventative medicine, and he is absolutely correct. You train these young men before they become dads so that they will be better dads. Mm-hmm. We want men who are dads now to go through the training so that they can already, maybe they're already really good dads, but they can become better dads. We want grandparents, grandfathers, because grandfathers have a huge impact on their grandchildren. And sometimes that grandfather is the father figure, maybe the only father figure for a grandchild. And so even granddads and great-granddads, because of the impact that they can have on children, are welcome to this. We're going to be inviting other churches in the area. We're especially, though, excited about reaching out to our community and especially the Levy area of North Little Rock, but also North Little Rock, Sherwood. Anyone who hears of this is welcome to come, but we're excited about reaching our community and impacting our community with some very powerful teaching, some very powerful material.
You know, you hit on a point there. I don't care how good of a dad you are. Unless you are perfect, there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
And so I think even if you're grounded, even if you have because here's the thing, and on this show you can talk about God. Here's the thing, Satan's not going to leave anybody alone, and he's not going to leave any home alone. And if God designed the plan for, dads to be that influence, as was mentioned a while ago by Phil and by, Randy, if God had designed it that, that the man was to be that positive influence, statistically proven. If you want to throw the Bible out of the discussion, throw it out of the discussion, but you can't argue with numbers and you can't argue with statistics, then it would only stand to reason that, Satan would want to undercut, the role of dad in the homes.
Absolutely. And we have the opportunity, the Bible is the textbook of family, and we can have a huge impact with the Word of God. The principles of the Word of God are practical and helpful, life-changing. Our goal as a church, and my goal as a pastor, is to be life-changing.
Okay, I got about 2 minutes left, and I gotta go to a break. So let me come to you, Randy. Anything you want to say, or anything you want to add to what's been said?
No, I just echo everyone. I want to challenge every man listening here. Bottom line, even if you never did the curriculum, you never did the thing, you make the determination in the morning, I'm going to be a better dad. And today you'll be a better dad than you were yesterday. And I encourage you to find everything you can to learn. I'm just honored to partner with you guys.
Hey, Phil, you got anything you want to share?
No, sir. I just want to say ditto to everything that's been said, and thank you, Pastor Randy, and thank you, Pastor Rayburn, for being on the show today, and thank you, Senator Hammer, for having us on.
All right, you can go up to arbetterdads.com, and you will find the website that's put up there by the state that can give you supportive information. I'm looking at it now. I'd encourage you up there. And then if you want to get registered for the conference on August 26th, 27th, go to www.faithnlr.org/betterdads. Coming up in the next half hour, I've got Robert Lewis, who has authored the materials Better Man. You can't be a better dad if you're not a better man. So when we come back from the break, we'll have Robert Lewis on to talk about Better Man. Come back to the Kim Hammer Show after the break. Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM The Answer. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful day. We had on the first half conversation about the Better Dad Conference that's coming up over in Faith North Little Rock. Give you that information. Go up to my website if you want to capture it. We'll get it up there. But for the second half of the hour, I've got Pastor Robert Lewis, who's the author of Better Man material. Want to get Brother Lewis on the phone because if you want to be a better dad, you got to be a better man first. It kind of goes hand in hand. But you got to be one to be the other. So, Robert, thank you for joining me on the Kim Hammer Show today.
Kim, thank you. I'm delighted to be with you.
Hey, first of all, I know who you are, but the listening audience may not. Would you give them a little bit about your background and just help people get comfortable with knowing who you are and how it is that you led into the Better Man material?
Yeah, I've been a pastor for over 50 years. I actually came to Arkansas on a football scholarship at the University of Arkansas. Played for Coach Boyles, and then came back after seminary and helped start Fellowship Bible Church in Little Rock. I was directional leader of the church for 25 years, and during that time there, started a small Bible study for men, mainly because I wanted to invest more in just developing the whole subject of manhood, because growing up in a home where my dad was an alcoholic and didn't really invest much in my life, I had a lot of questions about manhood myself, so I got into the scriptures and began to teach what I found there to men, and one thing led to another, and before I knew it, we had over 1,000 men coming out every Wednesday to a curriculum that I developed called Men's Fraternity. That got published by Lifeway Publishing, went around the world. In 2005, I transitioned out of the church to do manhood ministry around the world, and have done that ever since. And during that time, over the last 4 years, we developed a new ministry called Better Man that employs older men and younger men together to go through the fundamentals of manhood, and that's what Better Man's about.
So the material, when I looked at the material, and just, disclaimer, we are going to be implementing Better Man into our church, at the church I pastor, Saline Baptist Church, down in the community of Tull outside Benton. We met with a group of guys from Holland Chapel Baptist Church down in Benton that have already got this up and going. I think they've got 100 men that are going through it. And it's really kind of ignited a fire among the men, because it is an environment where they can come in a small group setting. And honestly, my interpretation, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of unpack some things that maybe they've been carrying, but not only unpack it, but give them a clear direction for where they need to be heading in the role of manhood. Is that a pretty fair character assessment of what we're talking about?
Exactly. It's to bring men together and discover that all of us men have the same issues. And part of the initial journey is just to say, how did I become who I became? And we discover how much we have in common with one another. And then the second half of the curriculum is to paint a biblical vision of manhood as God gave it to the original man, Adam, and then lay that vision out, and then in the final weeks, make it practical how to implement it in your own personal life.
some of the stories that you've heard as far as how it's changed men's lives, can you maybe speak to anything that just comes to your mind as far as the impact that has had upon men?
Well, the biggest impact is we've had now over 2 generations of men who have grown up in America without any understanding of what it means to be a man. I mean, it should have come from Dad, it should have come from the church, but unfortunately, we've just not addressed that subject in very clear terms, both biblically and practically. And so what Better Man does is goes back and lays out from Genesis on what the Bible says about manhood, but it also invites the men to compare where they've been in their life and what they'll discover, and these are some of the great moments in Better Man, is that they'll discover that they've been fed a lie, that they grew up with Dad not giving them many times the kind of information they needed to have a successful young adulthood. And so part of that is just unpacking the pain that they've experienced by guessing at life. The second thing is giving a biblical definition. You know, most guys, you could ask today, Kim, what does it mean to be a man? Can you tell me in a simple statement? Most men cannot give you a definition of manhood, and they certainly can't give you a definition of manhood directly out of the Bible. And we do that in a way that's simple, transferable. You can share it with your son. You can live it out. And I think for a lot of guys, seeing that the Bible directly addresses manhood right at the start of Genesis is a big surprise. And then when they see that the rest of the Bible has all kinds of practical how-tos to live out that Genesis definition, those things then get applied, and a lot of men begin to taste the success of God's wisdom around manhood immediately with their wives, with their workplace, with their kids. And that just is a big aha that does probably more to ignite a man spiritually than anything I've ever seen as a pastor.
You know, one of the things that one of the gentlemen was talking about when we had our group meeting with some of my guys and some of their guys was that, you know, he had been saved all of his life, and he knew that he had room for improvement. But as he started going through the material, you referenced, I think a second ago, he had an aha moment where it's like, man, this is serious. I mean, and it got real for him. But part of getting real for him was the fact that he had to be honest about where he was and honest in the fact that he wasn't really pleased with the direction he was going. He just didn't know how to get there. And that was one thing that was echoed, you know, in the previous comment, I think by either Randy Jumper or by Pastor Lynn Rayburn, was that sometimes guys just don't know the pathway forward. They know something's wrong. And the confusing part of it is the world's told them they're wrong if you do follow a biblical pattern. Sometimes it's just giving guys a pathway forward. You mentioned about the second half of the book and the material. How does it help give gentlemen a direction of a pathway forward through the curriculum?
Well, one of the big moments in Better Man is we open up Genesis and look very clearly at the interactions God has with the first man, Adam. And though it's presented in story form, when guys kind of are instructed to look at what exactly did God tell Adam, they discover that what God's doing with Adam at the very beginning is he is laying down kind of what I call the boundaries of manhood. And he gives him 4 very specific responsibilities that a real man, a guy who's going to grow up and assume what I call full manhood, is going to embrace their responsibilities. One is around courageously following God's word in a difficult world. The other is learning how to love and protect God's woman, the woman that God brings into a man's life. Third is learning how to see the workplace not as just a job, but as a sacred responsibility, and to give whatever work you do your best. And then lastly is to raise up a healthy, well-adjusted next generation, because one of the core principles of manhood is being a good dad. So we take those 4 general life-giving responsibilities and we formulate a definition of manhood around them. And for the first time, guys go, so that's what it means to be a man. There are a lot of other things men can do, But if they don't do these 4 things, not only will they not be satisfied with their life, but overall they will make a lot of dead ends in their life that they'll regret, but regret at a time in their life when it's almost too late to turn it around.
And one thing I think, and I want to go back and clarify because I wouldn't want anybody to misunderstood what I said either, or what was said. And this is not a bash your dad from the past experience. This is just looking at things honestly and then developing a plan, or being honest in what you may be feeling, and then develop the plan using the guidance of the structure of the material, incorporating biblical principles as to how to move forward past that.
Right, right. And one of the things that's exciting for dads, men, and most of the men in Better Men are dads, is they want their sons to be healthy young men growing up, but they don't know what to tell them to help them get there. And so learning a clear definition of manhood in Better Man empowers them to then give that vision away to their sons, rather than, being at a game telling them to man up and not knowing what that even means. Now they can sit down with their son and explain manhood and call their son to something they themselves, for the first time, are real clear about living out. That just becomes that simple understanding is revolutionary, I've seen, to most men. And then closing the loop with Dad, looking back and realizing Dad was trying maybe to do the best he could, but he didn't really know what to tell me. It gives men an understanding of what they missed, but they can use that to go back and reconnect with Dad, realizing that they need to bless their dad and they need to connect with their dad, and know steps that will help close that loop. I think every man needs to close the loop with Dad. Some guys grew up with a dad that was wonderful. I think more often than not in today's world, especially with over half the families in America today, young men growing up in a fatherless home where he's not even there, most young men today have what I call father wounds, that they need some instruction on how to close that loop and heal that wound. And we talk about that, not to bash a dad, but to reconnect with a dad and to do it in a responsible way.
So let me ask you about a specific situation and how it is addressed in the material. What if your dad's died and you got wounds, but he's not there to heal the wounds with because he's in eternity? Does the material address that, and how does it deal with that particular situation?
It does, and it does address that. And when a dad has passed away, and let's say the dad, for one reason or another, did some things that were really hurtful to the son, then I think part of the instruction is to get other men. Other men are the key to healing wounds in your life that you can't heal otherwise. And those men are men that can come around you, encourage you, help you think of ways that you can close that loop. One of the ways that we do this in Better Man is to have a man go back to his dad's grave and actually stand over his grave and forgive his dad, audibly speak to that grave and say, Dad, I know you're not here, but I just want you to know with what I've learned about being forgiven by Jesus, myself, with all the issues in my life, I choose in this moment not to be bitter towards you, but to forgive you, and especially forgive you for things that you yourself would have done differently if you would have known better. So I'm not going to blame you anymore. I'm going to forgive you.
Not every guy is going to be cut out for this course. There is a segment of men, I think, that don't like getting in an environment, which these are small groups. This is not like a room of 50.
No.
These are broken down into small groups. What do you say to the guy that says, man, I can't sit down at a table and open up the way that this requires to open up? Because I think there are some that would use that as an excuse not to do it, which is unfair to them because they may be hindering themselves from getting access to what they exactly need. How do you deal with the situation, or how do you talk to the guy that says, I'm not going to sit around a table with a bunch of guys and talk about what happened?
That's right. No man's going to be forced to do anything in Better Man. One of the things we do, Kim, is we get men who are what we call table leaders. We try to have 2 table leaders and 6 participants around a table together. So 8 men total, tables of 8. But we try to get the men who are the table leaders to invite men personally before the group even starts. So there is some relationship at the very beginning. And what you're asking a man to do is just join you for you and him and a few other men to just explore manhood together. No man is going to be forced to do anything. A guy could sit at the table and just listen to other men share their own lives and just take what they can from that. But here's what I found. If a man comes to a group and he's listening to other men share things that he himself has been hiding or experiencing and not knowing where to go with that, he sees other men become honest in a group. That is the best environment for that man for the first time to open up and share his own life. He won't be forced to do that, but most men find an incredible relief to finally unburdening themselves with issues that they didn't know where to go with, and thinking that other men had it together. I was the only guy that had that issue or felt those things. But when he discovers he's safe with men who are just like him, it's the perfect environment for being willing and open to sharing your life. But again, no one will be forced to do that.
I'll tell you what, I got about 9 minutes left in the program, so I mean that kind of gives the idea of what Better Man is about. What's the website in case people want to look? And do you have it on the website for organization churches that are offering this program, so people could look in their area and see a church that's doing it in the event theirs is not?
Well, even better, we've got a person on our staff who would be willing to take calls anytime and interact with somebody live and help them match up with a church or a group of people in their area if there's one available. But our website is betterman.com, and on betterman.com we have all our materials. We have 5 different versions of the singular curriculum given by men of different ethnicities, Black, Latino. It's in Spanish, it's in English. You can choose the one that you want to be your video teacher if you do Better Man. All those videos, the workbook, the table leader's guide, everything is on Better Man and is free of charge because of donors who've been willing to underwrite Better Man so it could be given away.
And that within itself is incredible, that you've got donors that are willing to do that, because, money is taken out of the scenario to where that's not an excuse that somebody, can use. So
that's exactly. Better Man is free to any man, any group, any time in the world.
All right. Now I've got about 9 or 10 minutes left. What I want to spend the balance of our time talking about today is I want you to talk about the attack on manhood. And, if somebody's listening that doesn't have either a relationship with Christ, maybe they don't have an appreciation for Christ, maybe they are even somebody that has had or has a relationship with Christ, but they've been wounded somewhere along the way of life. Talk about the attack on manhood from the position of why would Satan want to tear down the role of man in a society and the long-term effects of that. Just open up the mic to you to just kind of talk about where you see this thing going with your years of experience in ministry and, leading men to a new path. I just want to hear your thoughts on how Satan is destroying America through the destruction of the role of man.
Yeah. Well, I think the clearest way to see that is to see how God started everything. And again, we go back to Genesis, because Genesis is God creating what he had hoped would be this perfect environment to allow men and women to flourish on planet Earth. Of course, sin destroyed that. But if you notice, when God started the creation, he started after the initial days of creation, and it came to man. He created man as male first. I know that's not politically correct, but he created the man first. And if you go through the rest of the Bible, being created first, there was a reason for that. That was not an accident, because God wanted the man to be the pace setter and the protector of the society that would be built between him and the woman after that moment. So the man being created first is incredibly important, because man, as a man goes, so goes everything else. And of course we see that, because when you see the temptation, who does the enemy go after, the devil go after? He doesn't go after the man, he goes after the woman. And God was expecting Adam, who he had instructed to protect his family, to protect his wife with the word. He was expecting Adam to step in and prevent that temptation, and Adam failed in that. And because Adam failed in that, not only did Adam fall into eternal sin, but the woman fell into it as well. And the whole earth became corrupt because of the failure of the first man to live up to his manhood responsibilities. And so I take from that what I call a major principle of life, and that's this: as men go, so goes everything else. If you get the man and get him straight, his family will be happy, his wife will be happy. If he grows spiritually, his wife will participate in that, his kids usually participate in that, churches are strong, a community is strong. But if you attack the man and get him off course into this toxic masculinity that we're experiencing today in America, it doesn't matter how many government programs you get, how many halfway houses you create, drug addiction centers you create, or those kind of things. Although I will say all those are necessary and good in our fallen world. They do good, but they will not create a more stable social order as long as the man is clueless about what real masculinity is about. So it doesn't surprise me that since the 70s, when we had the women's liberation movement, Roe versus Wade, we went through this upside down world where we're going to make everybody the same. It doesn't surprise me that the enemy has used that social revolution to attack men and to get them lost and to break the family down, so that young men would not hear the basic fundamentals of biblical manhood, where the church, trying to be culturally sensitive, ceased to encourage dads to be directly involved in their homes in a big picture way. There are churches that do that well, but I'm talking, I traveled the church world for the last 10 years, and most churches don't even have a men's ministry. They have everything but a men's ministry. So we're not investing in men. We're not investing in dads with biblical instruction. Therefore, men are growing up in homes where dad is not there, or where dad is not involved in providing what I call this basic manhood instruction. So you have, an entire generation of young men who are either buying into whatever the latest flavor of manhood is by the world, or they're guessing at their manhood. And both those paths lead to the same place, and that's a toxic, diluted, dysfunctional masculinity that no one likes. And that's where we are today. And so when you look at the culture and see the destruction that's most often perpetrated on our society, it goes back to young men, to absent dads, to a broken family where dad's been irresponsible and women are trying to hold it together, but the principle remains the same. It goes all the way back to Genesis, and that is, as men go, so goes everything else. And so to reclaim that, we have got to get back. We've got to get back to teaching and training and empowering young men with the fundamentals of manhood, either through their fathers, by teaching their fathers that information, through the church, by having pastors get more into teaching men, or through ministries like mine that go directly at young men, just like the dad ministry you had on before, which is trying to give dads and men the fundamentals of manhood that they can be successful with. Because when they hear them and they understand them and they see them in their practical ways coming out of the Bible, it does make sense. and rings true. And if you've got men who are willing to cheer for one another, you start creating a healthy masculinity. And when you get a healthy masculinity, everything around that healthy man gets better. That's what I've seen, Kim, for over 40 years.
And I've got about 2 minutes left, maybe a little bit less, but you know, Satan will rise up and attack everything that you said, and that should be a warning sign to society that if we continue on the path that we're going as a society and men do not step up to be men, and let me make this qualifying statement, that doesn't lessen the role of women at all. In fact, women are extremely important to the complete picture of how a society can function. But we're speaking to the men today, and if men will step up and be what they're supposed to be in any role that they have the opportunity, whether it's a dad or whether it's a husband or just being a leader in the community, statistics will show you that society is better and the world is a better place to live. Fair statement to you, Brother Lewis?
That's correct. No one is more excited about a healthy man than a woman.
Yep. All right. You've been listening to the Kim Hammer Show. You can go up to their website, which is betterman.com. I've got it pulled up in front of me now, and you can get all the information about how to contact them. And I didn't know whether to call you Robert, Brother Lewis, or what I was supposed to call you, so I hope you're not offended by anything that I called you today on the show. But
No, Robert's fine, Kim. Thank you. I take the opportunity.
All right, I got about 30 seconds left. You want to say anything in the last 30 seconds?
No, the thing we've said through the whole thing is my passion, and that is we have to build better men. Men are not going to just discover it accidentally. Better manhood is a manhood that's taught, and it's taught from the Scripture.
Very good. Remember that we got a conference coming up August 26th, 27th at Faith North Little Rock. That's www.faithnlr.org/BetterDads, and you can get information about that conference on Better Dads. Thank you for listening to the Kim Hammer Show today. I hope you are inspired by what you've heard today, especially if you're a man. Let's step it up and let's be the leaders. Thank you for listening to the Kim Hammer Show.